I recently made a video on the possibility of Ivo being able to go super. If you haven't seen it, go watch that first. I received a comment that pointed out the fact that in Mania and Superstars, everyone can go super. You see, I had stated that the emeralds would need to be supercharged in order for them to use their powers to their fullest, which isn't what we see in Superstars and Mania. It seems even Sega is a bit all over the place with super forms, as back in the day, Tails could only go super at all thanks to the super emeralds. Knuckles had a hyper form, but it looked pretty much the same as a super form. Now in Origins, Tails has a super form, and they called his old super form his hyper form, with no changes still to Knuckles, at least. So what gives? According to Sega, the hyperforms aren't even canon, but that really does ruin some of the Emerald lore, so until this is explained concretely by them, it's my own belief that these two forms are the same as these, and these two are the true super forms of these characters after using the super emeralds, since they can't tap into the full power of the emeralds so easily. You can tell by the difference in appearance that there's a bit of a discrepancy between Heroes and these two, in that in Heroes, when Tails and Knuckles use their super forms, they're surrounded by an orb of glowing energy, whereas in Superstars and Mania, they flash a bit. In my opinion, this is still the same thing, just a different representation of that untapped potential. Let me explain. In Sonic 06, Sonic actually does the same thing with Silver and Shadow, sharing that energy with them. However, with these two, they both go super, as in the actual transformation. Sure, Sega only wanting the Hedgehogs at the time to go super could be a real-world explanation, but it still doesn't explain it in-universe. I also don't think that's the only reason why this happens. You see, while the others were still able to tap into the emeralds, they weren't at the level that Sonic, Shadow, and Silver are, like I mentioned before. Let's look at Trip. Trip's ancestors had a history with the emeralds. They had used them and the emerald powers to defend their homeland. Seeing as though they had such an understanding of the emeralds and the ability to use them in such a degree, it would make sense that her and the people of her race would be able to go super. They'd used the emeralds for so long that they were able to tap into their full potential. If anything, don't you think it's weird that Trip of all people was able to attain a full super form, but these guys have been around for so long and are still just a rave party? This is why. It's stated in a Twitter takeover that the reason they're able to use the emerald power specifically in Superstars is because those islands in specific were affected by the emeralds.
This next question comes from Pablo Endugue. Why do none of you use the emerald powers anymore?
You say that like we're actively choosing not to.
The North Star Islands are imbued with a magical aura that gives the Chaos Emeralds special powers. In all my research, I've yet to find another area on our planet that experiences a similar phenomenon.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Never say never.
We see the same thing with Angel Island with the Master Emerald. That's why it's able to float. So prolonged exposure and use of the emeralds not only has an effect on the environment, but it also allows you to further tap into their potential. The only thing this doesn't explain is Knuckles. He's constantly around the Master Emerald, so why isn't he able to tap into their power? Well, he is. He states himself that everyone in his race can glide. Bit of a random power to have when you don't have wings.
To Knuckles. I always wondered, how are you able to glide, actually?
All Echidna can glide. We simply bend the wind.
You do what now?
I think he said he breaks wind.
He states that they're able to bend the wind, but that doesn't make a ton of sense. Instead, this could be because of the Master Emerald's influence. It seems he needs some sort of knowledge or know-how to fully tap into the Emerald's power. To some, it comes naturally. To others, not so much. It also has to do with the amount of exposure. I'm not willing to cherry pick and say one of these is wrong and the other is right. We need a concrete explanation for all of this. These all have to be true, but if they are, why and how? This is the only explanation that I've been able to come up with. Since Knuckles' ancestors aren't around, he isn't able to learn from them, and as such, he isn't able to fully tap into their strength. I mean, hell, his ancestors weren't even able to do fortune telling with the emeralds. Even with the knowledge of the emeralds though, it's still incredibly hard to use their energy. That's why Mecha could harness their power, but Eggman can't. Don't you think Gerald would have used the emeralds more if he could? You need the body for it, and you need the knowledge. Some seem to have a talent for it, but it could be written in their DNA. So it's likely the case that while, yes, he is referring to his super form, it's not exactly a super form like Sonic. In order for him to tap into that power, he needs the emeralds to be supercharged. This commenter states, Mecha Sonic and Neo Metal Sonic needed the Master Emerald to become super. In Sonic Mania Adventures, Metal Sonic only received yellow eyes and a yellow aura from absorbing the Chaos Emeralds. This checks out. Keep in mind that Metal and Mecha were both made to emulate Sonic, so it only makes sense that Eggman would have them look, at the very least, sort of like Sonic's super form. In mockery, of course. They go on to state that Robotnik was able to use the Master Emerald to attain a new form in the movie. They conclude that you either need to absorb the dark/negative energy from the Chaos Emeralds or energy from the Master Emerald. While the movie isn't canon, the Chaos Emeralds have both positive and negative ionic energy. The Master Emerald could logically represent a neutral equilibrium state, where both energies coexist in balance, allowing either to tap into it more easily. The Master Emerald could have so much power that you don't need the 7 Chaos Emeralds. If you knew how to, you could just tap into the Master Emerald. This introduces a new possibility to the original video that, if this were true to the games, which I believe it could be, Robotnik could just tap into the Master Emerald. We see him constantly trying to steal it along with the Chaos Emerald, so it isn't super unlikely. Explaining the Chaos Emeralds is probably one of the hardest parts of the Sonic lore to make sense of. But I plan on making more videos in the future regarding them, as I believe them to be one of the most interesting aspects of the series. If you have any theories of your own regarding them, or if there's anything you think I might have missed or overlooked, let me know in the comments below. Oh, and don't worry, Carlos. That death battle video is coming.